Dear friends, thank you so much for joining yet another episode of Share the Well. This time around, the roles have been reversed, and I am going to be interviewed by my good friend Abhilash, and we talk about my journey as a manager and as an individual contributor in the corporate world. And Abhilash just made a switch from being an individual contributor all these years and moving to become a manager, and so he was interested to understand my perspective on and my journey, and it was an honor to really talk to him about certain things. So we kind of broken this episode into two. So in the first episode is what you're going to listen today, and then the next week we will have the second part of that episode. So take a listen, enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys at the end of the episode.
So, sure. Yep. Donald, it's good to have you, and I think our listeners have heard you speak to others, and they know your voice and they hear you ask questions of others. But today you're in the hot seat. Are you ready?
I'm ever ready. I'm born ready.
Okay. Yep. I think our listeners are getting to know you. Okay. And this session is about you, Don. You're the spotlight, and this session is primarily about the subject of work. So I think our audience will get to know a little more about you and your take on work. So yeah, this is for the listeners. Don and I have known each other for quite a while now. I would say 15, 16 years. And my name is Abhilash. I'm from Bangalore, India. And there was a time, I think a short phase, where Don, you and I, we shared a house together, right?
Yes.
We used to have friends come over and they would hang out. And, so for our listeners' sake, why don't you take us through your professional journey? Tell us what you have done and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, sure. My educational background, I did my bachelor's in commerce. It's kind of, in India, we call it BCom. And then after that, I went and did my post-graduation diploma in management or equivalent. They don't, the institution that I did my MBA in, they don't give MBA because they're not a recognized university. So they call it postgraduate diploma in management. I did it in finance and minored in marketing. My first job was in sales, and I joined a firm called ICICI Prudential, which was an insurance company. So I was there for about 2.5 years. I did mostly sales management and distribution management. That was my specialty, or rather, that's the one that I got to do. So that's when I was an individual contributor. I started off as a management trainee and then became a manager. Post that, I moved to another small company, Allegro Financial. So it was they were kind of a small setup with investment banking. I stayed there for like 6 months, and then I somehow didn't adjust to the culture. So I moved quickly and then joined Accenture, where I was for about 12 years, just over 12 years. There, I started with a team called mobilization or transition. This was mostly to do with projects that were sold, had to be set up in India. This was in the outsourcing, space. So I did mobilization and for a while, and then I moved to service delivery, which is basically servicing our clients from India. Then I came to the US. The last 8 years, I've been here. In the 5 years in the US, the first 5 years after I came over to the US, I became what they call an account manager, basically managing accounts for our clients. So I managed one account, then I kind of moved on to another account, and another couple of accounts were added, and I had the opportunity also to begin something new, like a new service offering that we could offer to the clients. And then my last stint, the last 3 years at least, I've been with Merck. I'm a director for operations for a team called Global Clinical Data Integration, which is in the pharmaceutical space. And I'm a director for operations there. What I do essentially is projects that help deliver the strategic outcomes for our team. And we spread out. We have about 4 geographies: Argentina, China, US. That's a Merck offices, and then we work with a firm that operates out of India. So that's essentially my day job. Mostly projects driven, and I work with what I call the triangle: strategy, structure, organizational structure, and culture of the organization. So that's essentially my projects. Yeah. Sorry, long
So
answer.
it sounds like the majority of your function has been customer facing, right? Or say until you joined Merck?
Yeah. It mostly customer facing. I was in sales, it's a retail sales. Then I moved to kind of B2B, right? Business to business sales. Then I joined again B2C, back again in Accenture. It was business to customer. And now I'm in, kind of a in-house stakeholder setup, not really customer. We have partners that work with us. So I have stakeholders, which I think is the same concept. We call them internal customers, but it's still within the company.
And
Yeah.
have you always been an operations guy?
That's an interesting question. No, I thought I'd be in finance all along, because that's why I took bachelor's of commerce. I took accounting as a specialty. I thought I was good at accounting. I majored in finance, doing my MBA, and I came out in life insurance, but I knew I wanted to get to finance, but I thought it's a good place to start. Essentially, I mean, let me go back. I was desperate to get a job out of MBA, right? So you take a job that comes, right? And it was a pretty lucrative job when I got it, considering my classmates. So I just took the job that I got, but I always wanted to be in finance. But it so happened that I stayed in sales all along and then moved to operations when I came to Accenture. That's when I liked operations. I started to see it all come together. Operations is a field that has everything, right? You got some sales, you got some finance, you got some strategy, you got like a mix of a lot of these things. So I enjoy it now.
So
never started.
when you say you enjoy it, and it's a mix of several functions coming together, right?
Yeah.
Which function do you enjoy doing the best?
I like to. I don't know if it's a function. I think it's an area that people generally struggle with. That's problem solving.
Okay.
And I don't know which bucket it actually falls in, because I think in order to solve a problem, you need to have, I think, all elements of operations, right? So, and it's not just to solve the problem, but it's to take the company or the team or function, whatever that is, from where it is that is having a challenge or a problem to where they can be. I really enjoyed that part of my job. And I've recognized that I like something that is completely unstructured. And when it gets to structure, that's where I think operations wise, when it becomes routine and I know what that is going to be, kind of lose interest. So I've recognized my strength is always in some, what I can solve that is unstructured. And
So you mean bringing some kind of order out of chaos?
Yeah, that's essentially right. I'm okay with complete chaos. I've recognized that, and that's not everybody likes that. I think all of us like order. I somehow thrive when there is chaos or disorder.
Okay.
To be able to work with people, it's a people's, it's a people challenge, right? To work with people in order to sort that out. Once it's sorted, I kind of lose interest. I don't like the daily rigmarole.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you like the chaos to order aspect of the operation instead of the maintenance aspect of the operation, right?
Exactly. I get bored pretty quickly with the maintenance.
Okay, and when you look at yourself, is there a particular trait in your personality that makes you interested in this? Is this something that you can trace back when you look at your life?
I don't know if I can look at my life. One of the things that brought about clarity of kind of the way I am wired is came out actually when I did a survey called Clifton 34 Clifton Strengths. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
The
The
Strengths
survey,
Finder, right?
Strengths Finder. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
That 34 Strengths Finder, 34 Clifton Strengths Finder. That kind of illuminated my understanding of the way I am wired. And so, my top five strengths uh, can deal with chaos pretty strongly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's if I remember right, it's input, strategic, um, uh, connectedness, learning. It's LICSC. So, yeah, it was learning, input, connectedness, strategic, and there was one more. I forget the strength. There's another C, LICSC. I remember that acronym. So those top five strengths that it was kind of revealing to me when I read the strengths. Like, wow, this is what I like to do.
Right. Right.
So those five kind of give me that helps me operate in this realm easily and kind of give me, quote unquote, I know I sent you an article, meaning for
Mm-hmm.
work, meaningful work. Kind of gives me, I'd say, satisfaction. And so if you throw me in that, it's I'm kind of, doesn't feel like work anymore.
It's interesting because every once in a while we hear a survey which tells us that many people are not really engaged at their work, right?
Right,
Maybe
right.
60, 70, 75%, something like that, right? A good portion of people who work are not engaged because probably they don't think their skills and their natural personalities are suitable for the job.
Correct.
In your opinion, how important is that?
I think it may not be as important as you begin your career because you're discovering kind of who you are, right? I don't know. Maybe I should retract what I said. When I look back at even my childhood and the things that I did, I think I can now see why I did what I did, the way I did what I did. It gives me kind of pause for thought. As you ask me this question is when I'm actually making the connection. I always was okay with chaos because my life actually, honestly, became chaotic after dad passed away. After my dad passed away at 9 years old, it was chaotic from then on. So I found a way and a mechanism to channel that chaos into a level of productivity, whether it was at sports or whether it was at studies. I found a way to manage that chaos. In some sense, I was trying to hide and get away from that chaos. So I channeled my energy into doing that. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think it can be detected early. Can it be nurtured? That's the key question, right? So we very few of us actually have mentors, both at work and at home, right? Outside of life. I've had the privilege of having mentors both at work and outside of work. So that's kind of helped shape, ask the question, hey, what am I doing? How am I wired to do what I'm doing? Even asking that question, I think, can bring about a lot of discovery. Uh, and I've been doing that at Merck. I have a great opportunity to mentor people, not just my own team, but others. There's a mentorship program, and we've been able to ask that question, and it's really been revealing to people to kind of say, what they do is they take the job description, they take their strengths now, and actually map it. saying
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to do and who I am right now, the way I'm wired, how is that connected? People kind of get their answer saying, oh, wait a minute. That's why I'm dissatisfied in some sense.
So it helps for people to know what they are good
Right.
at or how they're naturally wired to find a job that fits the wiring well.
Right. It may be a journey. It's
Mm-hmm.
not in me again, just cut away and say, I'm going to find my job, but maybe a stepwise journey. People just need to be patient. But I think if you have a framework to say, okay, how am I wired? What am I doing? Is there satisfaction or is there dissatisfaction? And then move towards some kind of satisfaction in the way that you're wired will be helpful.
Mm-hmm. And this trait of yours, right, managing chaos and bringing order,
Hmm.
does this transfer to your personal life? Do you see areas outside of your work where you do this or you enjoy doing this?
Yeah, I do. I do find um, it can this any strength can become a weakness. So to my family, I'm irritating because you know uh, I want I don't want chaos in some sense. That's my natural inclination is to take chaos, move to order, right? So sometimes I run out of patience. It's like, why is it not cleaned up? Why is this like this? Why is this kept like this? It needs an order. So it can become a burden. And I've started to recognize it now off late that my frustration sometimes at home is because of the way I'm wired, and I need to be patient. And sometimes the stamina for patience I run out at work because that's what I'm doing, like 8, 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours. I have now no willpower left when I come back home, or when I start to get back, in the home environment, and I'm firing off, right? So which is not good. So I can I use it personally, but I don't think it's very useful because sometimes I push the girls and push Maya a little bit. So the last couple of years, I've recognized that I can do this, and so I think it's my role. Instead of shouting orders or barking orders, I might as well do it because that's my strength. So clean up, all of that is really my responsibility. Mostly, obviously Maya helps much more than I do. I cannot take credit for what she does at home, but at least the house cleaning portion, I kind of help drive.
Okay, okay. Um, let's pivot to another aspect of work. And this
Mm,
is something that is very close to my heart right now. And
mm,
for much of your career, that is what, 17, 18 years, you have been in a manager role, right?
yes.
Uh, yeah. And this is significant for me because it's only now that I have become a manager and I have a small team. And having been working as an individual contributor for quite a while, I'm entering a new world, right?
Mm,
So tell us about that. How long have you been an individual contributor and how long as a manager?
yeah. So I think if I started work in 2003, so I've had 18 years being in the corporate, and I'd say about 5 years of those 18 years I've been an individual contributor, and it's been in different sections of my life. So when I came to Merck, I was an individual contributor
Hmm.
for a year, right? As I started to build the concept, the idea of what it means to be an operations person in this operating model. And then I started to build the team around that concept and that idea. So I'm not saying I was individual contributor and I always was a manager. When I was in Accenture, I was an individual contributor for about 2.5 years there. So a year and a half, I'd say. Yeah, year and a half, 2 years, I think, I believe. And then another, year and a half, close to 2 years when I started my career. So all in all parts of my career, even as of 3 years ago, I was an individual contributor, and then I became a manager.
So
So about
roughly 12, 13 years of being a manager, right?
correct, about 12 to 13 years of being a manager. Yep. I've managed teams that are really large I've had a team of 2,500 people.
Hmm.
I've managed team sizes of 400 and 500. And right now I manage a team of 8 people.
Okay.
Right. So I've had different sizes of teams that I've managed over the years, and the complexity is still the same. The scale may be different, but the complexity still remains kind of the same, irrespective of the total number.
I assume that you enjoy the role of being a manager, right?
I
It's
do. I
okay.
do. It just comes
Okay.
naturally to me. Yeah.
Okay.
When I look back, so that's why, I think the streaks that are there, even as my childhood. So I was a captain of my team, you know, um, back at sports.
You mean cricket? Is it?
I played all sports. So I
Okay.
was captaining hockey, I was captaining football, I was captaining cricket. It was in, a lot of sports, like um, team sports. Even in athletics, I was in team sports. So I used to lead. So I think it just kind of came naturally for me. And you lead by performing, and so transitioning to a team manager was not very difficult. Actually, my second year as a employ as a corporate guy, I became a manager already. Yeah, I was really young. I was leading, like, guys who were like five, maybe even, sorry, 8 or 10 years elder to me, right? Just in age and experience. Yeah, I had the privilege of coming to a management school and therefore becoming a manager. But it's kind of a different tour. So they didn't really respect me when I
Uh-huh.
came in, and tried to really earn their respect. It's like, who is this kid from, MBA school? He thinks he knows everything. So I had to really win their respect. And sales guys are brutal,
And did
right?
that
And
work?
it took me time. Took me at least, I'd say, about 9 months to work my way through, because these guys were in the field for, like, 5, 7, some of them 10, 12 years. They're like, what do you know about selling something that I have to teach you, but I have to still call you boss or manager, whatever that is, right? So it was an interesting challenge.
Do you remember what you did to gain their trust? How did that pan out?
I have to say, I honestly didn't know. So I used to pray quite a bit. I said, Lord, I don't know how to win their trust other than assist them, right? Enable them. That's where I think that word really, empower, enable, really is a key premise on which people management, I think, is built. So I try to enable them, and relationship management was my responsibility. So I was in a state called Kerala in India, and I was given the responsibility of managing a team, which was a bank, which had a team that was selling insurance through the bank, right? So our people were placed in the bank branches, and they were trying to cross sell insurance. So my responsibility was to manage the relationship of that account, right? And also manage, obviously, the top line, right? Sales of that account, right? So we had branches all across Kerala, top to bottom, right? Kannur all the way back to Trivandrum. So I used to transfer, kind of go all across
Okay.
Kerala to each branch every month, meet the manager, create the environment, create the relationship, and make them win some contest that we were up and running against, like, across in India, and then create that environment. So slowly but surely, people started to respect, saying, okay, Donald is doing something that enables me to sell better, sell more, sell faster. Um, to win the respect of my peers, it was harder, because these guys were experienced for like 20 years, 25 years. They were
Okay.
my peers, and I had 0 years of experience. Actually, 1 year of experience. That was really nothing, right? So God gave me the ability to sell a humongous policy that not many people have ever sold in that geography. That skyrocketed in some sense, my stripes, right? It's like,
Mm.
this dude knows to sell. so, so, so that was a fun thing. I sold, in Indian rupees, it is 1 crore, right?
Hmm.
It's pretty big, right? People don't sell like 1 crore policies dead, right? Those days. So it was a rare event, and I sold one, and people were like shocked at the fact that somebody could sell like before that somebody else had sold pretty similar, like 75 lakhs or 80 lakhs or maybe even 1 crore, I don't know, but mine was the second sale that happened, and it was brilliant. So
Propelled you to the top.
yeah, I think it just gave me some kind of respect among my peers to kind of say, okay, this guy's not fresh out of college and he thinks he knows everything. So it took some relationship management to kind of be respected, I guess. um yeah, fun. My first year, that was really fun.
What this idea of relationship management, right? Getting along with people, and you said empowering them. Um, how significant is that aspect of work when compared to getting things done as a
Yeah,
manager and as an individual contributor? What do you think?
I think it's the same concept for me, right? In my mind, right? I could be wrong.
Okay.
Obviously, you are one. If you're a manager, you're one step away from the task itself. Sometimes, right? If you're doing tasks with your team, like you do some tasks similar to what they do, that's different, right? So maybe you're closer to the task than what. Like for me, I am one step away from the task, right? So the task is being done by my team, and I am helping manage my team, right? So what I what I think my job is to create an environment that they can successfully execute those tasks. And so it could be that there are some roadblocks I need to clear. There could be some things that I see that they don't see because I see differently, because I'm at a different perch. I'm at a different perch, not to say high or low, but I just can see different because I'm in a different position. I hear different things because my boss talks to me, and I see different things. And also I'm kind of away from the context, so I can see what they're doing and what's happening. So just from the point of my position, where I sit and how I see, I'm able to then help them create an environment that enables them to execute the task successfully, right? So that's what I mean by enablement and empowerment. And relationship management plays a very critical role across what I call the enterprise mindset. You need to have an enterprise mindset. You need to understand what's happening in the company, and then what's happening within your function, what's happening within your team, what's happening between cross functions, across functions. So that management, that thinking, will help you then kind of go and build these relationships with different people in your organization, that then creates an environment for your team to successfully navigate through those tasks. That I see as a manager's role. People get stuck as managers. They micromanage the tasks of the team members, and the team members are like, do I get the task done, or do I manage my manager? Right? So that's something that I've seen across the patch, where people are insecure managers. Not meaning to say that I've not been insecure. I have, and I still am in some cases. But the more secure you are, you understand what's your role. And your role is to empower, your role is to enable, your role is to ensure that the environment that you're creating for your people is enabling them to execute their tasks successfully.
So you're saying that having an enterprise mindset and understanding the big picture, and then getting your team to do the work, is a better way to get things done than micromanaging, correct?
Big time, big time,
Mm-hmm.
big time. It's because your team is better than you to do those tasks. You need to know that. And why I say that is they're closer to the task. They know what needs to get done, right? Now, what happens is if you've done those tasks, you have a framework that you can help them with. But and I think I know now, environments change like every day. So you don't know a lot of stuff that they know because it's just
Right.
dynamic. The environments are dynamic. So you need to believe that they know better than you in the task itself. They might not know what you need to know, but that's where the exchange and that relationship between your team and you comes saying, you understand what your role is, and I'm going to explain to you what my role is, right? And so I'm not getting in your way. I'm actually giving you a boost to get your stuff done. You tell me, right, where you need help, and I will also find out where you potentially might need help and can expedite your enablement.
So the manager acknowledges that he or she is not really the expert at getting the task done that the team is doing, and you're saying this mindset is okay. It's not one that creates insecurity.
It should not, but
Hmm.
generally it does, right? For
Right.
people who have, all of us have our ego, right? Which is sometimes goes unchecked, and we confuse ourselves with, what's my role? What's my team member's role? Can it be complementary and supplementary rather than competitive? It's not competitiveness, but it is supplementary and complementary to one another, right? So um, you don't get it immediately, but I've been fortunate. That's why I said mentoring really helps. You get this stuff faster. It's easier, and it's easier for your team, and it's easier for you, and it's better for the organization, I think.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um, well, I have a very pointed question.
Go for it.
Yeah. Can a manager be, quote unquote, friends with his or her team members, or is it good to maintain a kind of a boundary or a distance?
Yeah, I think there are different schools of thought in this one, right? There are different philosophies here, I think, right? So you've got to choose something that makes sense in your own context and for your own kind of, I'd say, what are you comfortable with, right?
What has worked for you, or what kind of manager
Me,
are you? Yeah.
yeah, I've been very good friends with my team members. Um, it's really helped me, and I say that because going back to relationship management, right? So if you don't have trust, if you don't develop a level of, I really know this guy, I know his intent, I know mostly where he's coming from. Sometimes it's misplaced priority or expectation, but I really know this guy. So I've all through my life, I've had really, really good friendships, peer level,
Mhm.
and 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 also my teammates, team members, and then also my bosses. I've had some very good friendships with my bosses as well. So I think relationship plays a very critical role, really understanding your team and they understanding you. Investing in that relationship makes a big deal. The people get afraid saying, okay, where do I quote unquote draw the line? That's what I think, maturing your team members to understand context is important, right?
Mhm.
And so when you're dealing with a project, team members could kind of mistake you for saying, oh, this is my friend Donald talking. But I think you have to mature them to have different kinds of conversations. One conversation is personal, the second conversation is professional. And making that switch, your team might struggle with initially. That's where I think you mature and you help them mature to kind of say, now we're having, this context, and this particular discussion is around what we need to do. And that could be very different. And so they might see a different side of you that pushes, right?
Right.
So, some of my team members are like, Donald is hyper aggressive in what he thinks he needs, and versus he's a very amiable, friendly dude, right, to talk to. So how does your team manage that tension? That depends on how good you are as a manager. That's the maturity that people will have to make. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm just saying that's something that I enjoy and I struggle at the same time, but I've found a way to kind of balance the two over the years.
I suppose it's also like parenting, where your team members get more from you and what you do than as much as from what you tell them to do, right?
Always, always.
So being
It's
an example in the way we conduct ourselves
oh yeah.
makes, yeah.
Yeah, we had I told you about, we were talking about the men's group, right? So I asked the men's group to actually write to my team to ask them, how am
Oh,
I actually
okay.
a boss, to them. Actually, they wrote back. They wrote back about, I gave them the liberty to ask them without me, and they could get the email without me seeing it, and then they would synthesize the feedback and give it to me. So I have no problems doing that, and I think, how are you
You
consistent? So
say
they
your
actually
men's
went to my
group at church, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
They wrote to the team at your workplace that reports to you.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
That's a
Yeah,
first.
and they they wrote to my wife.
Okay.
They wrote to my daughters, and so my daughter, Nia, Nikki, and Maya gave feedback, and then my team gave feedback saying, "How is this guy?" Right. So to kind of watch consistency across the patch, right? I mean, is he who he is, like we see him, or is he different? And that's a great challenge to have, right? In terms of, am I consistent? Am I, is the character in me consistent across context? It's an interesting challenge to have. So you can do some crazy things like that that helps you kind of center around, essentially character first.
Mm. Well, tell me something about being a manager. Um, I mean, we have spoken about being a manager and working with the team, with individuals, but at the team
Mm.
level, how do you build loyalty and trust with your team as a team?
Mm. Yeah. Uh, I have a very simple dialogue when it comes to relationship or anything else. What you don't have, you cannot give. You cannot
Hmm.
share, you cannot lead. The first and foremost thing is, how are you loyal to your team? Right. And I've struggled with
Right.
this initially, right? To how do I present my team to my boss? And I have exaggerated many times, right? That shows my insecurity, right? I am trying to look good. In that sense, I'm actually disloyal to them because I'm not doing them service, right? Second, I have, in many occasions, I have spoken down about people with my bosses, um, which is again being disloyal, right? So over the years, I've experienced of how to be, and I think you and I have spoken quite a bit about it, truthful about certain situations, but how to also be gracious. And that again, it's a tension. It's a tension. Um, I have let go of more people than any manager that I have known as my peers. It's a tough metric to carry. It's a burden to carry. But I think it's been the truthful and gracious thing to do. And helping them understand it, I think I've been loyal to them. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
just covering up and moving on, I've been able to give them some hard facts that they needed to hear. And so I think it has to begin with you. It has to begin between God and you. And, just being loyal to God in your own heart and mind drives your loyalty to people around you. And I've also, in my days in Accenture, I've had some great feats by the grace of God and by a great team surrounding me, like in terms of attrition. We've gone down to numbers that, people only dreamt of over the years. And so I think I'd say a fruit of loyalty, engagement, loyalty. Attrition is kind of is a fruit of what we could drive there. So yeah, so begins with God and you, and then moves on to other people. And you have to be loyal. You make mistakes. You have to own up those mistakes and correct them and move on. And how do you balance truth and grace in your conversations is a growth area.
Good to hear, Don. Good to hear the accomplishments.
Yeah,
Somewhere at the start of our conversation, did you use the word triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you explain what you had in mind?
Yeah. So this has been it's been developing over the years for me, and for me, strategy, structure, and culture are 3 points of that's my triangle, right? That I've talked about. In the middle of the triangle, I have two V's, that is values and value. So strategy, structure, culture, and in between that triangle, you have two V's, that is values and value. So the way I explain that is strategy is where are you going? How will you get there? Right? Simplistically.
Okay.
If you don't know where you're going and how you're going to get there, you can get anywhere. Right? That's what they say. Structure is essentially, okay, if you define your strategy of where you want to go and how you want to get there, then do you have the organizational stamina and structure to enable your strategy, right? So you need to have the right people with the right skills to do the right things to be able to achieve what you want to achieve as your strategy. Then comes down to culture. So you could have a great strategy and you could have great structure, but you don't have good culture, right? I don't know. I think it was Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So I like that, because if you don't have the right culture, the ship's going down.
Right.
And we struggle with that. So as a manager, I think I look at kind of work in that triangle to kind of say, okay, what is the strategic implication in work? Do I have the right people and the right structure? Do I have the right culture in that program, project, team to be able to achieve that? Right at the heart of that circle is values, right? And that's where beliefs, values are really critical. And to emphasize the company's values is very super critical, right? Because if you steer away from those values, you're going to affect something in that triangle. And then the last thing there in that center of that triangle is value. People do a lot of stuff without actually asking, what is the value in me doing that? So it's kind of a filter to get away from overwork, getting away from wasteful work. Whether it's in strategy, structure, or culture, or it doesn't matter. You really have to press the button on the value. So we keep asking the question, what's the value in doing that? So that kind of prism helps me work simpler. As I put that prism in to the work that we do, it just enables me to kind of see, examine the work in different aspects of different. you, friends, for joining that episode. And in the end, you probably heard me speak about the model, the framework that I've kind of used over the years. And it's been kind of a triangle, which talks about strategy, where are we going, how will we get there, structure, organizational structure, essentially, the people that need to be equipped and brought in to be able to fulfill that strategy. And then culture, the way we engage with one another. And at the heart of that model or the triangle is really the two concepts of values, the values and beliefs that we have, and the company's values that we belong to, and then the personal values that we have, and then the value that we produce in whatever we are doing. So that kind of completes the model, and we explore a little bit of that, and also take a personal journey in the next episode. So hope you will log into the next episode as well. Hope you enjoyed this one. And until then, take care. If you have any comments, feel free to drop it in the platforms that you stream this on, or visit our website. It's sharethewell.community. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless.